What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we have some absolutely massive news about the future of the Destiny franchise. What's happening with Destiny 2 leading into 2025, Destiny 3, Destiny spin-offs, and more. We're covering all of that stuff, so let's get started. Now, all of this information is coming on the heels of the just massive situation going on within Bungie right now. So a few days ago, Bungie announced that layoffs were taking place at the company. I did a video covering that official announcement. You can check it out, it's linked right up above. But since that point, we have just had a massive slew of information come forth because, the people getting laid off, journalists are reaching out to them, asking them for comment. They're no longer at the company, so they're releasing some information. So we just have a ton of stuff kind of coming out about not only what was happening at Bungie that led to these layoffs, but also what the plan is moving forward for the Destiny franchise. And the first thing we're going to talk about that will absolutely impact the Destiny franchise is the status of Destiny 3. I think most Destiny players out there eventually do want a Destiny 3, a fresh start, and maybe a new engine. All of that stuff would be fantastic, but it was originally reported that Destiny 3, called Project Payback internally, was cancelled as part of this restructuring. And a lot of players were really disappointed by this news. However, the reason you need to take a massive grain of salt with everything that's coming out right now, and there's just so much bombarding you from everywhere, is that it was later reported by Jason Schreier, who's an absolute juggernaut in the games journalism industry. Like, this guy has reported on some massive stories internally within Bungie before and always been right. So he actually reported that Project Payback was a spin-off of Destiny. Like, it was a completely different game set in the Destiny universe, and it wasn't actually Destiny 3. Now, Project Payback did still get canceled, but they actually never even started production on Destiny 3. Now, is that good news? Is that bad news? I mean, it's up to you, but let's actually go over Jason Schreier's full article on the situation that just came out. So it's called Sony's Bungie Faces Reckoning After Mass Layoff. So this week, Sony Group's Bungie shrunk from 1,300 employees to roughly 850. Deep cuts that are likely to change the nature of the long-running video game developer. Bungie, the storied creator of the Halo franchise and the online game Destiny, said it laid off 220 people Wednesday. Those cuts included several top executives who have been with the company for decades, according to people familiar. The teams that were hit hard included audio, narrative, and player support. On social media, individuals shared their layoff stories, including one person who said they were set to go on maternity leave starting Monday. Brutal. The company said that it was also hoping to move 155 others to Sony Interactive Entertainment, while a separate group would spin out a new game company within Sony to continue working on an incubation project codenamed Gummy Bears. So this is interesting because, you may have done the rough math, 1,300 employees down to 850. Wait, and they fired 220? That's not adding up. Again, it's 220 laid off, 155 moving to Sony in separate projects, and then another, I think they said 75, also going to Sony, but as a group to continue working on this incubation project. Now, these incubation projects are one of the reasons we're in this predicament. Bungie was developing a huge number of background games, just trying to, create the next Destiny when you already have a massively successful franchise that wasn't good enough for them. So they would non-stop start and then cancel these incubation projects, throwing tons of money on this stuff that never came to fruition. But apparently this codenamed Gummy Bears, this one incubation project, has enough potential that they're basically saving it by sending it and the people working on it over to Sony. Very interesting kind of separate storyline there. Now, he continues. This is the second layoff in less than a year for the revered game studio, which was founded in 1991 and has created two of the industry's biggest franchises in Halo and Destiny. But ambitious growth and some big misses led Bungie to lose money over the last 2 years, forcing the developer to cut costs, freeze salaries, and shed hundreds of workers. This week, to learn more about what happened and what comes next, I spoke to 10 current and former Bungie employees who asked to not be identified because they were not authorized to speak to the press. They described a company that grew too fast and tried to develop too many projects at once, spreading resources too thin rather than prioritizing its chief moneymaker, Destiny 2. The Destiny player base has been warning Bungie about this for years. The literal meme in the community is that they send all the people who know what they're doing on Destiny 2 away to work on Marathon or these other projects. And so the Destiny community, again, like so many random people on Twitter, were more right about how to run this company than the Bungie CEO, Pete Parsons, which is so frustrating. Like, this is something that anyone could have seen coming. It's okay to work on some background projects, but the sheer volume of background projects that seem to have been going on with Destiny 2 is insane. And again, it's all on the direction of CEO Pete Parsons. We did a video yesterday exposing this guy. He spent over $2 million on exotic cars after the Sony acquisition. 500,000 of that was since the last round of layoffs. Like, this guy is unreal. Again, check out that video if you want to, but imagine having that guy leading your company. My God. Now, speaking of, Jason says most of the people were critical of Chief Executive Officer Pete Parsons, saying he had failed to take accountability for his own bad bets and that he'd been overly optimistic in his communication with the staff. Some said Parsons and the other company leaders spoke of a Bungie magic, a confident mantra similar to the ones preached by other elite video game studios that they can make anything work out. See BioWare magic and Arcane magic, etc. A Bungie spokesperson did not respond to requests for comment. Bungie first released Destiny in 2014 in partnership with Activision Blizzard Inc. under a contract that called for the developer to release a new product every year, full games alternating with expansions. But the schedule proved untenable for Bungie, which cut ties with Activision in 2019, largely so it could continue updating Destiny 2 rather than starting from scratch with another sequel. Since then, Bungie has transformed Destiny 2 into a live service game, updating it with new content and regular expansions. And I will say, they succeeded. Like, seriously, Destiny is one of the only really successful live service games right now. Every other company that tries to do a live service game, 99% of them flop immediately, right? See Suicide Squad, see Concord, etc. Like, Bungie has actually kind of got lightning in a bottle here with Destiny 2. It is truly a successful live service game, and even though some of the player numbers can dip from time to time, there's still a huge amount of people that play the game every single day, right? Now, they continue. In early 2022, during an era of low interest rates and strong post-COVID sales across the industry, Sony purchased Bungie for $3.6 billion, looking at Destiny 2 as a model for its growing ambitions in live service games. Flush with cash, Bungie hired hundreds of new staff members and pursued a myriad of incubation projects, including mobile versions of Destiny, remakes of old games, and new franchises. But the following year, as the industry's pandemic surge slackened, Bungie grappled with several problems. An expansion called Lightfall failed to impress fans, while Marathon, an extraction shooter, in quotes, a game that was well into development, struggled to coalesce. Meanwhile, the next Destiny 2 expansion, called The Final Shape, also floundered and needed more time to come together. During one grim meeting in late 2023, according to people familiar, Parsons told staff that the company had missed its revenue targets by 45% and was losing money. Bungie delayed The Final Shape and Marathon and subsequently laid off around 100 employees. feeling the pressure from a parent company seeking increased profitability and facing its own set of challenges, Bungie's executives charted a new course. Both Marathon and Destiny 2 received new leadership as Sony's video game unit replaced its CEO and laid off 900 people. So that's an important thing right there. You know, there's certainly a lot of criticism for the leadership of Bungie for making bad decisions, but the gaming industry as a whole is having a lot of problems. The same thing that happened to Bungie, the overexpansion, post lockdowns, all that stuff when gaming was huge, and now with the economy not doing well, people simply aren't spending as much on video games. They don't have as much income to spend on microtransactions and all that stuff. The entire gaming industry is shrinking back down again. Now, again, this is all due to people massively overhyping their company, and I can't believe no one saw this shrink coming. Like, obviously, when you let people outside, they're going to play less video games. Anyways, it is important to note that the entire gaming industry is being affected by some of the same forces. However, there is a lot of game studios that are not affected by this and are still pumping out bangers and are not laying off anyone. So just keep that in mind. So he continues, earlier this year, Sony Interactive Entertainment chairman Hiroki Tokoki, hopefully I'm saying that right, publicly criticized Bungie, saying he wanted to see more accountability. So this is Sony people saying, what are Bungie doing over there? Like, come on, guys. They continue, employees were hopeful that the extra time on the file shape would lead to a great product, and the expansion received rave reviews, but the critical acclaim had little impact on the deeper cuts that were already in the works at Bungie, as GameFile's Stefan Tolio reported on Thursday. Yeah, apparently, guys, file shape actually sold less than Lightfall. Now, because of the file shape being so well reviewed, I hope and I think that eventually the file shape will outpace Lightfall, just because, you know, when people are thinking to come back in later in the year when the next expansion drops, they're going to buy the file shape. Like, that's going to be the expansion they buy when they come back, right? If they come back. So anyways, that's just my opinion. We continue. In a blog post announcing the layoffs this week, Parsons acknowledged that the company had grown too much. We were overly ambitious, our financial safety margins were subsequently exceeded, and we began running in the red, he wrote. One of Bungie's big bets, Payback, that we talked about earlier, an incubation project set in the Destiny universe that would shake up the formula in major ways. According to people familiar, it would pivot from a first-person to a third-person perspective and allow players to use the franchise's characters to explore a large world while cooperating to battle monsters and solve puzzles. The pitch took elements from popular games such as Warframe and Genshin Impact. That's crazy. That's actually the first time we're hearing about that. We really didn't know too much about this project Payback. And we actually have more information on this project as well, with Jason saying, although several internet rumors over the past few months have suggested that Payback would be a direct sequel to Destiny 2, it was a significant departure from the previous two games, according to the people familiar, and would have been perceived more as a spin-off. But 2 months ago, Bungie canceled Payback to prioritize games that were more imminent, moving the bulk of its team to Marathon, which is targeting a release in 2025. Now, something very important I want to say involving this project Payback is that the series of events here makes perfect sense for a studio going through these issues, right? Like, why are we working on project Payback when we have a game, Marathon, slated to release next year, right? And I think it's important to say that canceling a project, like, I'm not a game developer, but I would imagine you don't delete all the stuff you've made involving the project. Like, you still got it somewhere and you can pick up development at a later time, right? But you're just saying, we have to stop working on this right now because we have to prioritize these other games, right? So I think that, you know, some of the stuff that they work on for these projects, potentially they can pick up later. You know, if they can have Marathon be a success, maybe migrate some of the people. Obviously, when Marathon is out, you won't need anywhere near the amount of developers working on it because it's out. It's a fully fledged game. You'll have a smaller team doing the live service stuff, right? You can now migrate those people back onto Destiny 2, back to these other projects potentially. So slimming down and focusing on the games imminently about to release, just from a logical perspective, does make sense, but it doesn't mean that these other projects that they were working on are like lost forever and they burned all the servers, burned all the computers that they were working on them with, right? And so some of that stuff could be incorporated into Marathon or Destiny, and again, these projects can technically be picked up later, but again, overall, that's a little bit of a copium take. This is still not good. Now we continue. The company also plans to continue updating Destiny 2, although it will no longer pursue regular paid expansions as it did in the past. So this is where we get into the future of Destiny 2. So, according to the people familiar, during one recent meeting, a company leader told attendees that the sales of each expansion had declined year over year, including June's The Final Shape, so they would be moving away from an annual release model. So, if there's no more big DLCs, what are they doing? Well, they say some of the staff said they're optimistic about the vision for Destiny 2 under new director Tyson Green, a Bungie veteran who took the helm earlier this year. That is true. Tyson Green is an absolute OG. Like, this person worked on like the Halo multiplayer, Halo 3 multiplayer, I think. Like, this guy is legit. And now he's in charge of the Destiny franchise. Honestly, I think it's overall a good thing. And they say in the coming months, the people said Bungie will look to retain and attract players with smaller scale content drops modeled after Into the Light, a well-received update in April that added a new mode to the game. Rather than selling this content, they said Bungie will aim to release it for free along with overhauls to activities it hopes will appeal to hardcore players. Other vague plans for the future include a storyline that will feature characters and worlds that Destiny has not yet explored. That's really interesting. So, I mean, it does sound like they're scaling down. Like, the bad news, the negative take of this is like, great, we're not getting any more major expansions. We're scaling things down. It's going to be more small scale moving forward. With that being said, if you're losing a chunk of the player base every time you have these big $40 or $50 now paid expansions, maybe going the free-to-play route, free-to-play content updates is not actually a bad idea, because this could result in an increase of the player base. Maybe the hardcore players like myself, maybe I'll miss the big expansions, but if you have an influx of new players because everything you're putting out is free, they don't have to look at an absolute wall of $500 worth of expansions they need to buy to get into the game, then if that is happening, maybe then that would actually improve Destiny 2 and result in more content for it if more people are playing the game. It's kind of an interesting, departure from what they're doing. And again, it's not, if you can actually attract a lot more people, it won't actually be a bad thing. But, we'll have to wait and see. So they say fans have wondered if Bungie one day may start anew with Destiny 3, but such a project has not been in development according to the people familiar. Bungie is instead looking to create a smoother onboarding process for Destiny 2, such as a rebranding to attract new players who might be turned off by a game that can now feel impenetrable to those unfamiliar with its ample proper nouns. Those left at Bungie will now have to make do with a smaller staff, tighter schedules, and a company that looks significantly different than it did 3 days ago. Longtime veterans like Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy exited this week, according to people familiar, as did several other top leaders, leaving lingering questions about the future of decision-making at Bungie. Bungie staff who lost their jobs are receiving packages that include at least 3 months of severance and health benefits, said the people familiar. But just like last year's layoff, anyone who received stock from the Sony purchase and has not yet vested it will watch it disappear. Another painful twist to the turbulent acquisition. Just a really crazy situation. But again, a huge insight into the future plans for Destiny 2. Having things be more free-to-play focused, smaller and more numerous content additions, more stuff like Into the Light. Now, Into the Light was kind of a banger. People had a lot of fun with Into the Light. But will a bunch of Into the Lights be able to continue the momentum of the game, or are we seeing the beginning of Destiny 2 petering out to its eventual demise? That is certainly what a lot of people are thinking about this situation, unfortunately. But with that being said, I mean, I personally think that people often forget the Destiny franchise is one of the biggest and most recognizable franchises in gaming right now. Like, it is a huge IP. It is one of the most popular games, consistently looking at Steam charts and how many people are playing it, all of that stuff. Absolutely, it's going through problems right now, but I don't think Sony especially would just pay $3.6 billion, a lot of that because of Destiny, and then just let it die. I would imagine that Sony would take the helm and say, hey, we're going to have one of our studios help you guys. We're making Destiny 3. We're making another big expansion. We are revitalizing this IP, because, like, just letting Destiny peter out would be akin to Activision letting Call of Duty peter out. Right? Like, it's one of the biggest franchises out there in terms of gaming. Modern Warfare 3 did not slap. Modern Warfare 3 is not doing well. They're not going to cancel Call of Duty. They got another Call of Duty right around the corner. Now, I understand that's a totally different... They have multiple studios working on all that stuff, but I'm just saying, Destiny is such a massive IP. The IP itself is worth billions. It is in Bungie's and Sony's best interest that the Destiny franchise is popping off and Destiny 2 is successful and all of that stuff. So it's rough, looking rough right now, and it may be rough in 2025, right? But I still think it's such a popular franchise that Sony will step in and give it the resources it needs to keep going if something goes horribly wrong. That's maybe some massive copium. It probably is some massive copium. This could be the end. And if it is the end, you know what? I'm glad I did this journey with you guys. You know what I mean? It's been 10 years of Destiny. We had a heck of a run, guys. We had a heck of a run, and I don't regret a single second of it. Guys, that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.